Good evening. This week is Parashat lech lecha. This week's parasha is Parashat lech lecha, and this parasha speaks about it's actually a very rich parasha. There's a lot to learn from this parasha. However, towards the end of the parasha, it's talking about the mitzvah of brit mila. So I would like to speak about that a little bit, and then speak about Avraham. So, Beshem Hashem Nase V'Natzliach, Le'ilui Nishmat Yecheskel Baruch ben Avraham HaLevi, Hanania ben Reuven, Solika bat Yaakov, Leah bat Yaakov. Refua Shlema to Avraham ben Chana, Chaya Esther bat Nechama, Tova bat Tzipora, Zecharia Dov ben Pearl Shira, and Mazal bat Goltesh Sultanat. Lezivug, Hagun, Le Yonatan Meir ben Rivka, and all singles, שיזכו לבנות בית נאמן בישראל. להצלחת חינוך בנינו ונכדינו, and this is also for the success of our children, educating them, for us to educate them in the derech HaTorah, that we should be matzliach, we should be successful with their education. And thank you, Hashem, for all your chasadim. So, the mitzvah of brit mila. Okay. I am using the Sefer HaChinuch that actually explains the source of the mitzvah and why it has to be done. So Parashat lech lecha has only one mitzvah, and that mitzvah is the mitzvah of brit mila. It says in Perek Yud Zayin, Pesukim 9 and 10, it says, Zot beriti asher tishmeru beni ubenechem uben zar'acha acharecha. This is in Sefer Bereshit. So Hashem is saying to Avraham, this is a covenant between that you're going to keep between me and you, and between your children after you. And then the same mitzvah is repeated again in Sefer Vayikra, in Parashat Tazria, in Perek Yud Bet, in Pasuk Gimel, it says, Himol lachem kol zachar, that you have got to make a brit milah for every male, a newborn male. Okay, so the mitzvah is repeated in the Torah. There are many times when the Torah is going to repeat a mitzvah. And the reason for it is that there is always a new law regarding that mitzvah that we need to learn about, and that's why there's a repetition. Regarding the mitzvah of the brit milah, it is repeated twice to teach us that if a brit milah falls on Shabbat, it overrides Shabbat. It means we are allowed to make the brit milah on Shabbat, even though normally we're not allowed to cut ourselves or to make ourselves bleed. And however, for the brit milah, we are allowed. Now, there are many reasons why the brit milah has got to be done, and many concepts according to Kabbalah. However, Chachamim teach us that this completeness of a person is achieved when the orla, the foreskin, is removed. Because that foreskin is actually an extra piece of skin. So what is the purpose of the mitzvah? Okay, we removed it, but What's the purpose of it? What's behind it? Okay? And the answer is Hashem wanted to establish in a nation that He set apart, which is us, the chosen nation. He set us apart to be called by His name. Am Hashem. We are the people of Hashem, the nation of Hashem. Hashem wanted to make a permanent symbol on our bodies, on the bodies of every male, in order to set us apart from the other nations. Just as our neshamot are different, it's a fact, our neshamot are different from the neshama of non-Jews, right? And so just as our neshama is different, so too our body has got to be different. And it says about it has to be different, and it has to be about the comings and goings. What does this mean, the comings and goings, right? It means that whatever a Jew does in his business, or the way he behaves with everyone else, in his daily activities, in his speech, in his personal relationships, right? There is a certain standard, and a high standard, and high expectations from Hashem to actually we are held to a standard that this is how you behave, right? The Torah teaches us how to behave, and that is what is setting us apart from all other nations. A Jew, another explanation for the going and comings is that a Jew is descended from Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And they worked very hard to attain perfection and closeness to Hashem. So these traits that they worked on so hard, these were passed down to us in our DNA. Every Jew has that. And the Rambam says that he gives another explanation on this mitzvah, and he says, the removal of the orla, of the foreskin, it lessens, it takes away the power of the desire for physical gratification. The brit mila represents the potential in every Jew to have control over his physical desires and direct them towards the purpose for which Hashem intended the function of that part of the body, which is the continuation of the human race, for us to have children. In that case, why is it that man was created with the ola, with the foreskin? Why? Why didn't Hashem just create every Jewish man with a brit mila, right? Because we are the Am HaNivhar, because we are the chosen nation. This title brings and carries responsibilities, and one of them is to perfect our character. So how do we achieve perfection? Is it possible? So it can be achieved through work, not physical work, but work on one's character. It's more like a mental work, control. So Hashem did not create us perfectly in a perfect body, just to teach us, just as our body accomplishes perfection only through the brit mila, so too it is within our ability and it is our duty to perfect our neshama by refining our deeds, by controlling our anger, our the food, the things we want to do. We need to control ourselves. And the Midrash continues and says and tells us that once Rabbi Akiva was asked by Tornos Rupus, he was a Rasha, he was a Roman prince, and he asked Rabbi Akiva, why is it that if the Brit Mila is so desirable, is something so good to have, to do, why didn't your God create people with a Brit Mila already? Why you have to have it done? That's like to correct nature. So Rabbi Akiva answered and says, many things are created in a raw form, and it is up to us, to men, to refine that raw material and to make it useful. Just like if you take a diamond, right? A raw diamond, right? It's a lot more beautiful when you polish it and you give it a beautiful shape. So in the same way, Hashem gave the mitzvot to us for us to become refined through their observance, through keeping them. So the Brit Milah is a symbol of the concept that it is man's duty to perfect himself in the world. There is a lot more about the Brit Milah, which I have not really written down. However, I would like now, the main idea I have just explained to you. Now I would like to speak about Avraham. So Avraham had two brothers, and he was the oldest son of Terach. Terach had three sons: Avraham, Nahor, and Haran. Terach was 70 years old when Avraham was born. There is a machloket, a disagreement. When did Avraham recognize Hashem? So some people say, some Chachamim say at the age of 3, and some say at the age of 50, or even at the age of 48. Okay. Avraham was actually 48 years old when Hashem destroyed the Tower of Babel. Those people who wanted to try and build the tower so high that they wanted to reach the heavens, right? To fight Hashem. So Avraham was actually 48 years old when that happened. From the age of 10 or 13, Avraham actually had been in the house of Noah a few times, and Noah, obviously that was after the Mabul, after the flood. It was like a few years before Noah passed away, and so Avraham was able to learn Torah from Noah and from the son of Noah, Shem. Then at the age of 39, that's when Avraham went home. Until then, he was not living at home. Okay, and that's when we have the story about when his father told him, Terach said to take care of the store where he had idols, big ones, little ones, fat ones, skinny ones, all shapes and all heights and all different material that he had made them. And he said, here, take care of my store until I come back. He couldn't be in the store that day. And so he went, and Avraham destroyed all the... No, sorry. First Avraham waited, and there was this old woman who came along, and she said, I want to bring an offering of food to the idol. So Avraham says, but you're an old woman, right? You're an old woman, and you want to bring an offering to an idol that was created yesterday. That doesn't look nice. That doesn't make sense. That's not nice. And the woman was so confused that she just left, and she didn't buy an idol. And so Avraham was able to convince whoever came to buy an idol. So Avraham was able to convince them not to buy one. And he didn't sell any. But after everyone was gone, right, that's when he took a stick or whatever it is, and he destroyed all the idol except for one big one. And he put the stick in the hands of the big idol. So Terach came home. He said, what is this? This is a disaster. What happened here? And Avraham said, well, there was a woman, she came and she brought food, and all the idols started to fight, and they wanted to over the food, and the big idol got so upset. Then he went and he just destroyed all of them. And look at him. That idol is standing there with a stick in his hands. And his father said, what? I made them yesterday. They can't move. They can't eat. They cannot do anything. So Avraham says, so listen to yourself. You think they cannot eat, they cannot do anything, and you yourself, you made them, so how can you believe in them, right? But then Terach was very upset, because Terach went, he's the one who told Nimrod about Avraham, that Avraham was rebelling and stopping people from believing in idols, right? And our next fact about Avraham is that when Avraham left his birthplace and he went to Haran, he was and then he wanted to, he was 52 years old. Avraham was 52 years old, and he stayed there for 5 years. Then, I'm not really going into in the order of chronological order. Then we learn also that Avraham, on the 15th of Nisan, Hashem spoke to Avraham in Berit Ben Abetarim. He made a covenant of the halves. What's the halves? That Hashem told Avraham, he put him into a deep sleep, and that's when he announced to Avraham that his children were going to be slaves for 400 years, and they didn't say the name of the country. He just said they're going to be slaves, and he said, and he told him a whole lot about what was going to happen to us. About, I think it's about a year later, when on the 15th of Nisan again, the angels came to Avraham to announce to him that he was going to have a child. And they said Ka'et Hayam. Ka'et Hayam means exactly the same day next year, same date. And so Yitzchak was born on the 15th of Nisan. When Hashem spoke to Avraham in the Brit Ben Abetarim, which is like the covenant of the halves, Avraham was already 72 years old. 70 years old. Later on, we learn that Hashem spoke to Avraham and told him, lech lecha, go and leave Haran. And Avraham did not really want to leave Haran because of his father. Terach had taken the entire family from their native place and they had moved to Haran. And Avraham did not really want to stay in Haran. But in the other hand, he said, it's going to look so bad. I'm going to make a chilul Hashem. If I leave my father now, and he is already in his old age, and I'm going to leave him and just go away, what are people going to say? How can you leave your father now at this time of his life? And so Hashem spoke to Avraham and told him, don't worry, Avraham, you are exempted from the mitzvah of Avayim, kivud Avayim. You may leave your father. As it happens, apparently, that Terach actually lived long enough and he actually passed away 2 years before Sarah passed away. Yaakov and Esav grew up. They were 15 years old when Avraham passed away, and Yaakov had the chance to actually serve his grandfather, Avraham, for 15 years. However, Hashem had promised to Avraham, I promise you, you're going to live to a good old age. Good old age. And however, Esav was not exactly a good child, and whatever he was doing was really just getting worse. And Hashem said, I promised Avraham to live in a good old age. But with Esav being Esav, and Avraham is going to find out about Esav's behavior, Avraham is going to have so much pain. So for Avraham not to have any pain, Hashem took away 5 years of Avraham's life because of Esav's doings. Avraham's birth. So Avraham actually, he was worthy to be created first, instead of Adam Arishon. So normally Hashem wanted to make Avraham, and then afterwards to have Adam Arishon much later. However, it didn't work that way. Why not? Because Hashem realized that that Adam Arishon was going to sin. And the only person who could make a tikkun, and the only person who could actually fix what Adam Harishon had done was Avraham. And that's why Avraham had actually 10 nisyonot, 10 tests, because of Adam Harishon. Every time he passed a test, he was actually fixing something that Adam Rishon had done. And so Avraham, because of this, Avraham was born after Adam and not before. Some opinions say that also David HaMelech was able to do a tikkun and fix what Adam Harishon had done. When Avraham was born, Nimrod's advisors wanted to kill Avraham. Because when Avraham was born, already when his mother was pregnant, as we have that song in Spanish, right, about Avraham Avinu, that there was this huge star in the sky, and the stargazers and the advisors of Nimrod were telling him this is a sign there's going to be a child born very soon, and this child is actually going to be against you and rebel against you. So Nimrod wanted to kill that child. At the time, Avram's Avinu mother was very close to giving birth, and she heard that actually now and Nimrod was after this baby that was supposed to be born soon. So she went and she hid in a cave. She hid in the cave for a long time because it just wasn't safe for Avraham to leave the cave. They lived in the cave. She really took very good care of Avraham. Her name, by the way, is Amtalai Bat Karnovo, and they lived in the cave. So Avraham really did not leave the cave until he was past 3. And that's when he went out, and he, according to some opinions, that's when he recognized Hashem, because he saw the sun and he thought, oh, the sun is what, the sun is all powerful, it must be Hashem, the creator. And then he realized, no, the sun went away at night, so it can't be. Then they said, oh, maybe it's the moon, and then maybe it's this, and maybe it's that, until he realized actually it cannot be, because they were not all powerful. And he realized there had to be a being that is so powerful that he was actually able to create this beautiful, huge, entire world. Nimrod had put Avraham in prison for 10 years. So first, for 3 years, that was once Avraham came out, right? And that was actually at the age of 13. And so he put him in Cush for 3 years, and in Cardo, he put him in for 7 years. So that was altogether for 10 years. And after those, at the end of those 10 years, that's when Nimrod threw Avraham in Ur Kasdim, in the furnace of fire. As we know, Avraham came out from that furnace without a scratch, without a burn, nothing at all, right? And Nimrod was really very angry at Avraham, and he told him to just leave, go away from here. And actually he gave him his son Eliezer, told him, take my son with you, because he knew that at least with Avraham, his son would turn out better than just growing up in his palace. So now, what did Avraham actually look like? So Avraham's height, now listen to this, Avraham's height was that of 74 men. So like if you took 74 men, of average height, and you pile them up one on top of another, that's how tall Avraham was. So he was really like a giant, right? And he ate like a man, like a 74 man, and he drank like 74 men, and he had the strength, the physical strength of 74 men. He later on, he built a city made of iron, very, very high, that the sun actually never went in. Could not, because it was so high that the sun could not really get into the city. And in this city, he put in the sons that were born to him from Keturah, right after Sarah was born, and Keturah is really Hagar. So he had sons with her and grandsons. So all those, the 15 of them, he took them, he put them inside them. There, he gave them precious stones, he gave them pearls, he gave them riches, and told them, okay, there you are. Now, don't ever, ever come near Yitzhak or bother Yitzhak. When Avraham took a step, his step was actually 3 miles wide. That's some step. When Yitzhak was born, Hashem made Yitzhak look exactly like Avraham. Exactly. So much that you could not, it was like identical twins. You could not tell them apart. You couldn't. Why? Because Sarah became pregnant after she had been taken by Avimelech. So everyone was talking, and everyone was saying, oh, Sarah is not pregnant from Avraham. She's pregnant from Avimelech, not from Avraham. Avraham cannot have children. And actually they were wrong. Because Avraham could have children, and it's Sarah who could not have children. She did not even have a womb to carry a child. So Hashem made that Yitzhak should look exactly like Avraham, to the point where you really could not tell who was the father and who was the son. Hashem spoke to Avraham, and Avraham said, I see in the stars, I can read in the stars that I'm not going to have children. I'm not going to have children. Hashem said to him, do not look at the stars, because you are not under the stars, not you and not your children. In the stars it says Avram cannot have children and Sarai cannot have children. However, I'm going to change your names so that your name becomes Avraham. I'm going to add a he to your name and a he to Sarah. So she's going to be Sarah instead of Sarai, and you will be able to have children. In Tehillim, Avraham is referred to as Etan HaEzrachi. That's Avraham's name. Etan means it's someone who is very strong, very strong-minded, very powerful, but well-rounded. And that was Avraham. When Hashem created Adam, he gave him the clothing of the Kohen Gadol. Right? Later on, when Adam had to be dressed, so he gave him the clothing of Kohen Gadol. That set of clothing was passed down all the way to Avraham. Avraham being the firstborn, right? The firstborn is supposed to be a Kohen. And so Avraham also was wearing these, the begadim, the clothing of the Kohen. When Avraham came to Sarah, they were on their way. When Avraham came to Eretz Yisrael, they came to Eretz Yisrael, and then there was no food. So Avraham decided, okay, everyone, we're all going to Egypt, because Egypt is the next country next to Eretz Yisrael, and there is food. And Avraham said to Sarah, I know you're very beautiful, and when we come to Egypt, please say that you are my sister, because if you say that you are my wife, they're going to kill me because of you. So it seems that if like Avraham is hiding behind Sarah, what about Sarah's safety? What if they take her? Who knows what can happen to her? But that's not the case. Actually, Avraham saw that there was an angel walking in front of Sarah, protecting Sarah, so that wherever Sarah will be taken to, she'll be safe because the angel is going to be there with her. But there was no angel walking in front of him. So he knew that if she says that she's his wife, there's no angel protecting him. They could kill him. And that's why he said, say that you are my sister. When Paro saw all those miracles that happened, because every time Paro tried to come close to Sarah, so the malach, she would say hit, and the malach would hit Paro. Paro felt the hits, but he didn't know who was hitting him. And then everybody got sick. So Paro realized that she must be a very special person, and her husband, and the man who was with her must be her husband, right? So then he called Avraham and said, well, didn't you tell me that she is your wife, right? And they stayed in Mitzrayim for 3 months. In Egypt, they stayed for 3 months. But Paro said, take my daughter Hagar. She's a princess. Let her be your wife's servant. She'll be better off being your wife's servant than growing up in my palace. After Sarah passed away and Avraham married Hagar again, she had done teshuvah, and he brought her to his place, but he never took her to Sarah's tent. The only one who actually went into Sarah's tent was Rivka. Hagar never went into Sarah's tent. Avraham wanted to bless his son Yitzhak, but he didn't. And why not? Avraham said, if I bless Yitzhak, I also have to bless Ishmael. But Ishmael does not deserve it. And if I bless only Yitzhak, Ishmael is going to be very jealous and it's going to cause a lot of problems. So because of that, Avraham did not bless Yitzhak at all. And not Ishmael, obviously. Right? So 3 years after Ishmael had been sent away with his mother, one day Avraham said to Sarah, I'm going to go and check on my son, Ishmael. I want to see what's going on with him. Right? And she said to him, okay, go, but do not get off your camel. Stay on your camel, because she was afraid that they would do a kind of kishuf, like some kind of magic, and harm Avraham. So he promised her, and he went and he came to the tent of Ishmael, and he saw a woman there. And he said, where's Ishmael? And she said he went with his mother. They went to the desert to bring dates. Okay. And then he says, could you give me some bread and some water? A little bit of bread and a little bit of water. I'm hungry and tired. I've traveled a long way. And she said, no, there's no water and there's no water and no bread. Okay. Then Avraham said, listen, I want you to give a message to Ishmael. Tell Ishmael that the roof of his house, of his tent, is not good. Some Chachamim says that he said the threshold of his house is not good. Okay? And he left. Then, when Ishmael came, his wife said, there was an old man here, and he asked about you, and he said that the roof of your house is not good. He said, is that what he said? Yes, that's what he said. Okay, in that case, Ishmael understood what he meant. that Avraham had meant that the wife is not good. And Ishmael understood that. Ishmael said in that case, he divorced her because his father had said that she wasn't good. Then his mother found him a second wife by the name of Fatima. And that's why the name Fatima is so popular in the Arab world. And Ishmael, and then one day, 3 years passed, and Avraham said, I want to go and visit my son again. So he went to visit Ishmael, and when he came, again Ishmael was not home. So Avraham asked, where is Ishmael? And his wife Fatima said, oh, he went away to take care of the camels in the desert with his mother. Okay. He said, please, could you give me some bread and some water? I've been traveling for a long time. And she said, sure. And she gave him bread, and she gave him water. And right away, Avraham prayed for Ishmael. And prayed loud. It wasn't so quiet. It was loud enough for Fatima to hear it. So when Ishmael came, and his wife said, an old man came to visit you, and he actually prayed for you. That made Ishmael very happy, because he said, if my father, he understood it was Avraham, his father, so if my father is praying for me, that means that he loves me. And that really, it gave a good feeling to Ishmael, and he really felt comforted. Okay, I'm going to stop here for now. That was part 1, and I will present part 2 probably next week. Shabbat Shalom, and we'll see you.